In this session, we'll talk about all these commands, and then thereafter we'll build our front end and backend application. Okay. So here, if you see, the first command is docker exec. Okay. So docker exec stands for our docker exec stands for in order to log into the container. Okay. So if you how exactly you wanted to log in, just click on open terminal. Okay. So you should be logged into your terminal. Okay. So whichever command you wanted to run it, okay, you can run it on this particular container. So this is nothing but you would be logging inside of your container. If you wanted to check your logs or delete files, modify files, whatever it is required, you will do it in this particular using docker exec. Okay. So there is a, I mean, this is via Docker desktop. Think that you don't have a Docker desktop, so you wanted to log in via uh, a terminal itself. Okay, so in that case, what we need to find out is Docker container list. Okay, this Docker container ID is required for us in order to log in into the container. That is, copy this bit. Okay, say Docker exec. Exec is nothing but execute short for. Okay. IT for a interactive, then give a your container ID, then you give a pin bash. Okay, which terminal you wanted to log in. You enter it, you would be logged into your container. Okay, so this is on the exe bit. Okay, so the next command is stop. Okay, so stop is used. Next command is a stop. So stop is used in order to do our stopping of a container. Due to some reason you wanted to stop your container. Okay, so in that case, just say docker stop and this container name. Docker will stop your running container. So if you could see, only one running container is remaining. Okay, so in this way, how do you do is you stop your container. Okay, so again you wanted to bring it back. Simple, instead of stop, just say start. Okay, your container will be started. Okay, so how do you check it? You just do a docker container list. You would be able to see the container which is running. Okay, so as a next step, so we wanted to do build. Okay, what is docker build? Docker build, it is used to build your own image. Okay, so think that we wanted to create our own front-end application, or say some hello world application on an Nginx server. We wanted to run it out. Okay, the basic command what you need to run is basic commands. Uh, what we would require is one file which says docker file. Okay, so what you need to, the naming convention should be, so let me see where I am. So I'm here. I'll say I'll create one folder called as a docker. I'll move inside the docker, and then let me create a one file. Okay, basic convention is the file name should be docker file itself. Okay, in that way only Docker will understand. Okay, so in this Docker file we need to mention few details. Okay, so this is our first Docker file what we wanted to create it. Okay, so I'll put few details. Okay, what I'm saying here is line number 1, that is the first line. What it says is, from Nginx I am extending it, meaning I'm extending my application. This image is extended from the Nginx. That is, on top of the Nginx image, we are building it upon. Okay, a custom image for ourselves we are doing it. Okay, so if that is what we are saying at the first line. Okay, second line what we are saying is, copy the index HTML and replace it at this location. Okay, this is a document root of our Nginx servers. So whenever Nginx container is up and running, and if you try to access a browser, right, whatever the file content it has been written in this particular file, it will be displayed. Okay. So what we are saying here is, I want my own index.html. I'll keep it over here. Okay. That it has to be copied from here to this particular path inside the baked image of our custom image. Okay. So that is what we have mentioned it. Okay. So let us save this bit. Okay. So once it has been added, if you wanted to check it out, you can check it like this, cat docker file. So let us, now we want a index.html, which we wanted to create it. Okay. So let us go and create it. Index.html. Here, let us see. I will put whatever this one itself is there, right? I'll copy and paste it out. Okay. So whatever the message. Okay. So I will paste it out. Okay. I'm saving it, and I've saved the file now. Okay. If I wanted to do a cat, say if you, what was the index.html, you would be able to see the same data. Okay. So let me go back. Okay. So now we have two files mainly. One is Docker file and one is the index.html. So how exactly we can do a Docker build? Okay. So as part of this activity, what exactly we are doing here is, it's basically, this is the one. Okay. So this is bit we are trying to do it using Docker file. We will build it. Okay. And create a resulting will be a Docker image. Okay. This image we will create it. Once this image is created, right, then we will push this same image to Docker Hub. This is the activity we wanted to perform it. Okay. So now let us go and do the create this particular Docker file. Okay. So let us, Docker file has been created. Let us go and build it out. Okay. So in order to build a Docker file, build a Docker image, so what we need to do is, first we need to check how many images are there in our laptop. Okay. If you see here, I have Frontend, Beginner Academy, Nginx. These all the roughly few files are there. Okay. So in order to create our image, so let us give a proper naming. Okay. So in this case, I'll say Azure DevOps. Okay. So let us, the command is docker build. Okay. Minus T stands for a tag. Okay. I'll say Azure DevOps demo. Okay. If you see Azure DevOps demo, there is no image exists. Okay. So I will say Azure DevOps demo. Okay. And I need to mention where exactly my Docker file exists. So in this case, it is exist in this current Docker directory. I will say dot. Okay. I will say dot. So if once I say it, and once I press the enter, what it does is it downloads a first image. So if you could see here, it is from Docker, right? It is picking it up a Nginx image. Okay. Once it has been done, this is there are two tasks it has to do as one of two. Okay. First task is from Docker image, from Docker hub, it has to pick a Nginx image. That is the first task. Until here, it has done it. The second task, what I've mentioned it in our Docker file is copy index.html from this same directory and push it to here. Okay. Then after that, export the image and create an image for us. So naming the Docker image like this. Okay. So if I now go back and see my Docker image list, you would be able to see our Azure DevOps demo. Okay. So if you could see here, it says 41 second ago it was being developed. Okay. Its size is 135 MB. Okay. So this is a first build part. Build part, we are able to successfully able to build it now. Okay. The second part is we need to push it to our Docker hub. Okay. So now let us go to Docker hub. Okay. So let us log in Docker hub. So ideally you need to create your own account. So I have my own account, so I will use the same thing. So already there are many images I have created it. Okay, so what I will do is I will create a new repository. Okay, I will say the same thing, Azure DevOps demo. Okay, I'll make it as a public. I'll say I'll create. So this is the in the Docker Hub. It's a container registry. Okay, Docker Hub. I've created my own repository called as Azure DevOps demo. Okay, so if you see here, there is nothing, no tags. There is no image exist over here. Okay, so now let us go and create a push this particular the image which has been created in my local laptop, right? It has to be pushed to our Docker Hub registry. Okay, 1 second. uh, so let us so if you see here, the first column says, right, this says Azure DevOps demo. Okay, our main intention is this particular repository should be of the proper naming should be Azure DevOps. Before that, it should have your Docker related this naming convention. Okay, so in order to push it, right, so I need our tagging, we need to alter it. Okay, so this bit, if you copy it until the colon, okay, and then we need to name, we need to tag it. Okay, tagging in Docker, it is basically making it as a alias naming. Okay, it won't copy it won't create another image. It just does the aliasing part. Okay, in Windows you have a shortcuts, right? Or in Linux we have a symbolic link and all the stuff, right? So it is similar to that. Okay, so now let us go and create the tag. Okay, Docker tag. Okay, Docker tag. So I will say I'll paste the, this is our inside the Docker Hub. In this way, in this pattern, it is there. Okay, I'll say .1.0. This is the versioning I have done it. Okay, what I need to tag, it's basically my, just now I have created a image that I need to tag it as like this. Okay, then only it will be easy for us to do a push command, run the push command. Okay, if I say this, it's hardly takes a time. Okay, so if I do image list, okay, so if you see here, this is our image which was created 4 minutes ago. Okay, this is the new tag just now I created. Okay, I have named it as a 1.0. If you closely see, the image ID is the unique ID for each of the image. Okay, since we have just created a symbolic link or a tag to the original image ID, both the image IDs are same. Okay, it is just a hyperlink. Okay, this one is linking to this bit. Okay, once it has been tagged, right, what you could do, you'll say Docker push. We'll say Docker push. So once you pushed it, okay, here it gave me an error. Okay, tag doesn't exist. So if you want push any mention a tag, it expects it should be, there should be a latest tag should be there. For this bit, there wasn't a latest. That's the reason it gave me error. So the tag what we gave was a 1.0. That is over here. Okay, so let me use that. So it will start pushing the Docker image. Okay, so probably it may take, okay, it literally took 8 minutes, 8 seconds, sorry, 8 seconds. So let us go and see here. So if you see here, a few seconds ago, it was pushed. In this way, what we do is we build the image and we push it over here. Okay, so now this particular image, anyone over the world, okay, they can consume it. Okay, so if you wanted to see here, just copy this. Okay, so think that I don't want it to because in my laptop it is already been, the image exists. So if you see here, our image exists, this image and this image. Okay, so if I wanted to mimic as some other guy who doesn't have this particular image, I need to go and delete these two images. Okay, So the next command is basically, it is to delete the image. Okay, I've done the build, post, and docker rm. Docker rm stands for a removal. Okay, so if you wanted to remove a image, in that case, what you use a command is docker rm. Rm stands for a remove. Rmi stands for a remove image. Okay, I will select the image. Okay, so this is our image. I'll say, okay, 1 second. Let me pick up this image itself. RMI. So it has been deleted. Okay, if I say docker image list, you won't be able to see the Azure DevOps images. Okay, so now the images has been deleted. Okay, so now if someone wants to use this particular bed, what you can do is you can copy the command. Okay, so what I will do is, I wanted to run the whatever the image we have just now pushed. I wanted to run that. Okay, I will go back to here. Okay, so I will pick up, we have to pick this particular command. Okay, so I will just name it here. I'm interested only in this particular name. Okay, so now what I need to do here is copy this. Okay, so here the name is I'll say Azure DevOps. I will give. Okay, I will give this. Now if you run this, what it will do is, this particular image doesn't exist on my laptop. Okay, so in this case, what it will do is, it will go and fetch it from our Docker hub. Okay, so let us see it now. So if you will see unable to find image. Okay, locally. So it downloaded it. Then it is pulling from this particular location, Docker hub. So it downloaded this particular image and run our application. Okay, if I see docker container ls, right, you would be able to see our container is running. Okay, so now let us go and access it out. Okay, so it is running on localhost itself. Okay, I will say localhost 8080 port, right? Okay, if I run this, so you would be able to see the image. Okay, so sorry, the content what we have mentioned, it is in a complete straight line. It is not that much beautiful. Okay, but the data is there. Okay, so in this way, what we do is, we build our image, push it to our Docker hub, and reuse it. Anyone can reuse this particular bit. Okay, so coming back to the next bit of a topic. Okay, so this is what we have covered. Okay, so 1 second, let me go back here. Anything is pending. How to create a Docker file, how to create a repository in Docker hub, then how to create an image from a Docker file. We did this bit, and then Docker image, we pushed it to Docker hub. Okay, so prerequisite for this bit is you should have a Docker installed on your laptop. You should have a Docker hub, and as well as Git bash is, if it is installed, it would be helpful for you if you are working on a Windows laptop. Okay, so the next bit of it, create a Kubernetes bit, we will be doing it in the next series of in the next week. Okay, before that, I wanted to we wanted to run a few of the application. Okay, so if you see here, we were planning to do build a front-end back-end application which will store data in a MySQL database. That is what we will be doing it now. Okay, so now what we will do is, let me go to our application. Okay, our back-end application. Okay, so if let me try to run our MySQL. Okay, MySQL database is running. Okay, so I don't want this one. Let me stop it out. Bootcamp is also not required. Okay, MySQL uh, container is already running. Okay, so if you wanted to run our any of the application, right, any of a front end, back end, and a database kind of application, right, what I will do is in this today's session we will I'll try to show it how exactly a front end back end uh, application will look like, and then probably we'll try to build it out. Okay, how Docker is involved here and how exactly we can test it out. Okay, that we'll try to do it now. Okay, so if you could see here, we have a MySQL database. Okay, in order to install MySQL, it is pretty straightforward. What I will do is I will paste the command in order to how exactly this MySQL has to be created. Okay, so few details I will go in. Okay, so if you wanted to go inside the MySQL database, right, just execute into that. Okay, just go for a bash. It is helpful. Okay, yeah, MySQL minus u and root minus u stand for a username. Okay, root is the username I've given it. Minus p stands for a password. Okay, it will prompt for me a password. Okay, so okay, let me I'm a bit bad at remembering the password, so I will go, I won't pretend I know it. So let me copy it. Okay, this is the password I had given. Okay, so this is the this is a MySQL login. Okay, this is a container running on my local laptop. Okay, so if I see here, if you wanted to see the databases in this MySQL, what you could type is show databases and semicolon. It will show all the details. Okay, so if you wanted to run this particular application, okay, these many databases are present in our database or MySQL database. So there is a DB called as there is one database exists. Okay, so if you wanted to create a new database, I'll say create database. Okay, create database and database name, I'll say Docker. Okay, Docker demo, I'll say. Okay, and then semicolon, I'll say. Okay, database has been created. So if you say show databases, a Docker database set has been created. You copy this database name. Okay, I will mention it over here in our backend. Okay, so the application what we are building here is, it's basically we have a front end and a back end, and then thereafter we have a database is running on a Docker. Okay, as a Docker container it is running. Okay, so now let us go and run this particular application. Okay, this Java application is there. If you want this particular Java application, let me know. I'll paste the code or link in in our Telegram group. You can use the code. Okay, so the basic command is Maven. In order to start freshly, since I have changed the database connection, I need to clean it out. Okay, so Maven is a for those guys who doesn't know about what is Maven, Maven is a package manager for Java. Okay, so you use it in order to build your application, Java application build and deployment. For all those purpose, we try to use it in Java. Okay, so I'm just doing a Maven clean. What Maven clean does is it goes and deletes a target folder. Okay, so what is these Maven goals? Okay, so Maven goals, right? So whatever the command we try to enter it here, right? Clean, or if I say compile, right? So in Java, how it works out is, so if you are trying to build your any application, okay, so the Java developer has coded all the code inside this particular SRC folder. Okay, uh, so all the code will be in a .java extension, which is human readable. Okay, So this bit, it has to be, machine has to understand, right? So what Maven compile does is, it compiles your Java code into machine, convert it into a dot class file, that is machine readable format, which machine can understand it. Okay. Using this particular command, we create .java into classes folder. Okay. Dot classes files. Okay. So if I say Maven compile, Maven is the our is a package manager or a build tool for us. Okay. So compile is a goal. In Maven, we call the, after Maven, whatever we write, it's a goal. Okay. So if I enter Maven compile, right, what it does is it compiles it. So if you see here, these are all the things it is doing it. Copying two jars. Okay. Then compiling it. Okay. And then what it is doing is compiling the sources file into this target classes folder. If you see here, target folder wasn't existed before. Okay. So now it has been created. Okay. You are able to see it over here. Classes are there. Okay. Then if you wanted to, uh, create a jar file. Okay. What is jar file, you could ask me. Okay. So jar file is a Java archive. Okay. So if you see here, if you go to classes file, right, so the file, the extension, you are unable to see it here. Okay. So let me go and open this as a explorer. Okay. Finder. So if you see here, you would be able to see our, it has created a dot class file, right? If I go here also it has created a dot class file. So what Maven compile does is, whatever the source folder, inside that one, how many Java files were there, though Java file is compiled, okay, and it created a target folder and classes, whatever classes folder, and whatever the code was there here, right, everything converted into classes or compiled as a dot class file and kept it over here. Okay. In order to run our application or any Java application, right, we need to bundle it as a Java archive. Okay. Dot jar stand for a Java archive. Okay. Dot jar. Okay. So this dot jar file is used as a, in Windows term, you can think of it as a, you can relate it as a exe. Okay. In obviously in your lifetime, you could have downloaded a exe and installed it, right? Similarly, if you wanted to run your application, Java application, either you create jar, var, or er file. Okay. Jar stands for a Java archive, var stands for a web archive, er stands for a enterprise archive. Okay. uh, so here we will be using jar file. So what is jar file? So in order to, so now if you see, we have compiled all these files, but it is in a scattered. Now it is only few files, few class file. It is manageable, right? But think that if my Java application is so big, say hundreds of classes file are there, so it is a bit difficult to manage, right? So in order to, if you have 100 files, right, how exactly you, when if someone asks you to give me one file, I don't want 100 files, right? So what you do, you will obviously go and do a zip out of it so that you can compress it, okay, and then you can one shot one file, you can send it off, right? Similarly, in Java, what we follow is jar concept. So when once it is compiled, right, we need to package it out, okay. So that is the reason in Maven we have a command called as a mvn package. Okay, what this does is, now we have created a jar, all the classes file, right? It has to be bundled up in a zip file, in Java terms, jar file. Okay, so let us run that. So if I say maven package, so what it does is, it has to go and create a archive. So if you could see, building the jar, okay, it has built the jar and kept it in under this particular location, right? So if you see here, these are all the files were generated just now. It wasn't existed earlier. Okay. So now this is our first Java application. We have built it. Okay. So I will just close all the tab. Okay. So now we need to bundled up this in order to use this particular application, right? I need to bundle it out. Okay, bundle it out as an image. Okay, so here comes up our Docker file. So we need to make sure that this particular, in order to this access this particular or run this particular application, we need to create it as an image. Okay, so before that, if you wanted to check it out what exactly this application is doing, right? So what you will do is you will run maven spring hyphen boot. Okay, so boot. Okay, and then you will say run. Okay, maven spring boot hyphen colon and run. Okay, so if you see this particular application, okay, another thing I forgot to tell you. So in Java world, right, when we say microservices, it's almost 95% of the time it is a Spring Boot application itself. It will be okay. A Spring Boot is a framework. Inside that one, it is a inbuilt Tomcat server will be running. Okay, so in that Tomcat server, what it does is in this particular Spring Boot application, the framework itself it supports in such a way that Tomcat server is running, your application will be deployed there, and then you can access your application on the fly. Okay, so and if you see here, Tomcat started on a port 8080 port. It is already clearly showed to us. Okay, if you wanted to access it, okay, so just go here. I'll say local host. I will say 8080, and this is on this particular port. It is our Tomcat is running. If I enter it, okay, if you could see, nothing is running. Sorry, it is running. Okay, so but there are no data because a database what we have created is a new one, right? If you enter without the context, right, you will get an error because application is running on a certain path, certain context path. So that is here. Okay, so if you see here, nothing is there, right? So in order to create a data, or in order to interact with this particular type of a application, right, which is running on my local. Okay, so you guys could have created many application, right? A Linux sorry, any new account, right? So say if you wanted to create a Gmail account. Okay, if you go for a Gmail account, obviously if you wanted to create a new account, it will ask you all these details, right? And once it is entered, it will be passed on to the backend. The backend will, this is our front end. Okay, by the way, this is our front end which will capture all the data and pass it on to the backend. Backend will receive it, okay, all the data, and then depending on the action it has been asked to perform, it will go and do it. So in this case, let us say it is asking to create an account. Okay, what it will do is it will go and create a data inside the database. Okay, Docker database. So in this way, normally flow it will happen. Front end, this is our application, back end application, and then the database. Okay, what we are currently building is back end and the database. So database, it has been running in a MySQL container. So backend we are building it. Okay, so currently these are all called as a APIs. Okay, sorry, these are all the APIs what the backend application what it has been developed, right? So in order to access, front end has to access it, right? It is built as a APIs. Okay, so if you wanted to go and run this bit, right, let us say uh, there is another one, Postman tool is there. Okay, in order to perform some of the activities, right? So what you do is let us say body. Okay, so let me close it out all the bit. Okay, so I will enter this bit. Okay, So this is our URL. Okay, so if I send the request, our APIs has been responded, but it doesn't have a data. It didn't show to us. Okay, so let me say duplicate it. Okay, so I'll go here. I'll say raw and the JSON format. Okay, I will. I need to format that. Okay, so let me go back. Okay, so let me add the JSON data format. Okay, in my code, if you see, our code expects, our front end expects, check it out. It expects first name. Okay, let us give the first name. I'll give my name. Okay, it's the same example. Okay, so the last name. Okay, and the mail ID. Okay, the last one is the email ID. Email ID. And I'm putting some dummy. Okay, this is our body. Okay, so here what we need to use is post. Okay, so in these are all the API calls. Okay, so in the API stand for a application programming interface. Okay, so in order to interact with any APIs, these are all the options are available. If you wanted to read it, you will go for a get. If you wanted to create it, you will go for a post. Okay, so let me trigger it. So if you see here, our 200 okay. Okay, meaning database has a created. If you wanted to go and check a database, so you have the new database. It has been called as Docker DB, right? Use Docker demo, right? So okay, I have typed wrongly. User I have typed. It should be use. Okay, so once you need to use a database, so then you can check how many tables are present. Show tables. Okay, so if you see employees tables is present. So if you wanted to see the content inside this particular database, you will say select star from that particular table. Okay, so if you could see, your database has this record, whatever just now we have entered. Okay, so if you wanted to, if you refresh this particular bit, you would be able to see the data. Yeah, the first record, it has been deployed. Okay, so now think that if you wanted to, a front end can be your browser, as well as your you can access your API via different places, either front end, or if you have a mobile app, or if you have a chatbot, or if you have a via curl command also. Okay, so if you wanted to see the curl command, what is, how exactly the curl command can be executed, so click here. Okay, so I'll do above the send button, there is a code button is there. Click here, so copy this bit. Okay, so if you wanted to run a curl command itself, calling the API, right? If you wanted to run that, so I will say in order to differentiate, I will say via curl. Okay, curl user. Okay, if I say enter, it will say second ID has been generated, second user, it has been created. So if you wanted to click here and want to see the records, you would be able to see the first record, second record, right? So if you wanted to check this bit, only the single record, that also you can do it. Put the number ID, and if you see get, you will be able to see the respective details. Okay, the same thing it is over browser as well. Okay, so if you wanted to see the, if you see two records are exist, so if you want, if I wanted to see if the only first record, I'll be able to see only first record. Second record, change the here, you will be able to see it. Okay, so now you understand that your application is your front end application is working fine. Okay, sorry, backend application is working fine. Where the APIs what we have built it is able to communicate to the database. Okay, it is able to create the record. Okay, that work is done. Okay, so now the next bit is we need to create an image out of it. Okay, how do you do it? First, what you need to do is go to your Docker Hub. Docker Hub is a container registry. Sorry. So now, if you wanted to create a new repository, you can say, I will say backend demo. Okay. I will backend underscore demo. I'll say create it. The repository it has been created. If I go to tag, nothing exists. Let us go to our application. Okay, so now we don't require this application to be running, so I will say control C so that my application stops. Okay, the normal Docker file we need to write for this kind of application is what we need to do. We need to extend our application from a base image. We call this as a base image. In the earlier example, we took a Nginx as a base image, right? So take up that particular base image. Okay, so here what I'm saying is OpenJDK, we will be using it because Java JDK is also should be installed on our image. Okay, and JDK version is 20. Okay, that is the reason we have taken that bit. It is creating a it is creating a working directory as app. Okay, as a next step, it will create a working directory as app, and as a next step, what it will do is it will copy this particular image. Okay, what is this image? It's basically, sorry, what is this jar file? This jar file is our application jar file which we have created using Maven package. Okay, the same, but what we will do here is copy, but it's a normal Linux command. Okay, we will copy this particular jar from here to this particular path. Okay, so the folder we have created it here, that is what we have mentioned it out. Okay, so now we will copy that. Okay, so next point, it's a entry point in Docker, right? uh, so it is an entry point. So obviously in Linux system or a Windows operating system, you know that whenever it gets boot, right, there is a startup programs which has to be run in case of Windows or a Linux operating system. So what we are saying here is entry point. Whenever this container runs, right, what it should do, it should run this particular our backend application. Okay, so let us, from where we will mentioned Java minus jar, it has to run from this particular path. Okay, this particular path, where how we have copied it, it has been copied from a local directory. Okay, and it has been placed over here. The same path we are mentioning while baking the image itself, we are telling all the details. When the container starts, right, what exactly it has to do it, all those information we are providing it at the starting stage of itself. Okay, so now let us go and build this particular image. Okay, so we have another 9 minutes. We'll see how much we can cover. Okay, so once it has been done, right, so let us go, and this is our Docker file. Wherever your Docker file exists, right, what you need to do, just say Docker image list. Okay, if you see all the images present, it will show it to us. Okay, so now we will say our Azure, we need to create a image. Okay, so the image command is docker build, sorry, in order to create an image, it's basically docker build minus t. T stand for a tag. Okay, so we'll say backend demo, capital letter, backend underscore backend demo. Okay, we'll just give a name, demo. Okay, And where exactly my Docker file exists? It is my current local directory. We'll say dot. Okay. So if you see, there are these many tasks are there. Okay. So one of three. First is from Docker hub, it has to get this image. Second task is that is create a directory. Okay. The third task is copy this one to this particular location. Okay. Then entry point we have mentioned it. So then it will export a image. So if you see here, I will check the image list. We could see 30 seconds ago it was been image has been built. Okay, this image has a half a MB, meant half a gig of a MB, 551 MB, okay, to be precise. So now what we need to do is we need to go and deploy this particular, go and push this particular image into Docker Hub. Okay, let us run this bit. In order to run that, what we need to do, just a tag. Okay, if you see here, what is the tag we have given to this? This is the name. We'll say paste this, copy the repository of the source image details, the tagging details, version, what is the version we are giving? I will say docker underscore demo 1.0. Okay, if I see Docker image list, new one, it has came in. Okay, so now the next command is we will have to push this particular image to Docker Hub, so that if my machine crashes also, it should be able to survive. The image will be there in the central repository of our Docker Hub, central container registry. Okay, we will run the next command. Okay, docker push. Let me copy the name, repository name, push, and the version 1.0. Let us push this out. This is pushing from my local laptop to Docker Hub. Okay, so let us see how much it may take time. It should be fast. We'll see. Yeah, it took a 13 seconds, so that's fairly good time. Okay, so image has been pushed. So if I go here, I go click on tags, nothing was present. Now the image has been pushed. Okay, in this way we are successfully build the application, pushed it to Docker Hub. Now we need to do a testing. Okay, we have roughly have a 5 minutes, so just I will recap whatever we have done it today. Okay, those bit will recap, and then in the next week how exactly what we will be doing it. Okay, first what we did, we run the few of the commands, docker exec. Okay, as I promised, we were able to run exec stop command, build command, push command. We are able to remove it. Okay, then we created we did build it, image, push the image. Those all the things also we have done it. Okay, so the next week what we will be doing is the same application will, the backend application will continue. Okay, we'll introduce the front end. Okay, we'll test it out. Once we are able to test it out, then what we will do is the same thing we will take to the Kubernetes world. Okay, deploy it in a minikube cluster. Okay, once it is deployed, we'll try to do it on EKS cluster. Okay, once it has been deployed in EKS cluster, then thereafter via pipeline we will try to run the end to end. Okay, so hope you like this particular session. Okay, so if you have any doubt or any question, right, you can ask to me. Okay, ask it to me. Please try to like this video or subscribe to our channels, and all our social media accounts are available in the subject line. Try to join it, so we regularly updates on Azure world or multi-cloud bed. Okay, thank you guys, have a nice day. Let me stop it out session.